Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast. Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. This podcast, as usual, brought to you by our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Level, it is the holiday season. It is the bowl season. It's portal season, apparently, because we've seen a ton of movement across college football there. And a whole lot to get into as we look ahead to Red Raiders and Arkansas Razorbacks. Of course, what's been going on around Texas Tech, introduction of two new coordinators. Basketball's been on a bit of a hiatus this week, but about to get deep into it with conference play right around the corner. And then, of course, the news that's been ruling the week is the portal opened Monday, and Texas Tech has done really well since the portal has opened. But plenty to get into. Bill, how are we doing today?
Well, and your quarterback had shoulder surgery.
Oh, and that. I kind of left out a big headline there. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And
I'm sure I missed other stuff, too.
yeah,
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, that's the one thing about all these rules changes, and the sport's just different, and they've tried to do some certain things to kind of space it out so everything is not exactly happening on top of each other, like moving the high school signing date up and then moving the portal entry date to later.
Mm-hmm.
And but with the college football playoff getting bumping everything up, there's there's a lot. And then you had, like nationally, you had Scott Frost returning to the scene of not the crime, but with a 13-0 season, I guess. You had Rich Rod, that was returning to the scene of the crime as he left in the dark of night, and then dealt with some unruly fans at his press conference. Is going to have to answer for some of those questions, but and then Bill Chapel Bill, as they're calling him, is now in college football. So there's a lot. There's a lot that's happening. Yeah. I don't know where you want to start, but obviously we talked about the Arkansas matchup and trying to figure out what this game is going to look like. Depending on when people are watching or consuming this content, it is a week and a half or so away, just a few days after Christmas.
Yep.
I think you're still ultimately trying to determine who's in for you, who's in for them, and looking at Arkansas, there's that was the chaos early this week, is that Arkansas had the mass exodus with, I think between opt-outs and portal entries, it was close to 25 to 27. Now there's been a couple of guys that have reversed course and said, I think I'm going to come back.
Right.
But there's a lot of key folks, but they will have their starting quarterback. So we can get into a preview, on the next show and all those things. But I say all that to mention that you will not have your starting quarterback, Behren Morton.
Sure.
And you're going to have somebody different calling plays in Will Hammond's ear in that game. But I do think I think people now realize that Behren wasn't healthy all year or fully healthy. This is an elective surgery. This is something that I think that we have just kind of wondered aloud about. But to his credit, he never balked. He got up every time. He started every game. He had a hell of a season. And I hope when people look at what he did this year and realize protection up front, not very good, but he led his team to 8 wins, and he deserves a lot of credit. But I will wish him the best in his recovery. I think it's about somewhere between 4 to 6 months, so we'll land on 5, and I think he'll resume throwing activities, after spring football is concluded. But this is Will Hammond's game now.
Yeah, I think that, and you know what, let's start with a question there, because we had one from Jacob. It says, Level, do you expect it, or will it become, pardon me, a open quarterback competition if Will Hammond does well in the bowl game?
What was going to be, it didn't matter if he does well or not. I mean, Will be allowed to, and some of this depends on Barron's health situation. I mean,
Yep.
Will's going to get every rep that he wants in the spring, and he's the only quarterback
Yep.
right now on your team set for next spring football. That will change as I think you will land a quarterback from the portal in short notice, and then I think you'll have some. You know, the thing is, you can have as many players on your roster before these rules are implemented in this spring, and so you can add some folks to help get you through the spring. But yeah, a lot of that question depends on Barron's health situation. But Barron will be allowed to get back and be the starter. I mean, he's earned that right, and but will also be allowed to be involved in all those things. I would say this: if you're already trying to start some sort of controversy or like picking one over the other, or I'm ready to see the
Yeah.
the new guy because your early signee that your quarterback signee, he's got an ACL issue and he won't be ready until July, August-ish.
Yeah.
So that's also what kind of compounds a bit of this problem, and that's why you're missing some guys in the spring. But I would just say this: I feel good about the two quarterbacks you have next season because you're protected and you'll have good quarterback play.
Yeah. I think
And it typically takes more than one, as we've seen every year for the
unfortunately,
last, yeah. But I mean,
yeah,
even
it
if
was
it's just the
nice.
second half in Fort Worth, Barron
Yeah.
didn't play.
It was nice to go through one season with a starting quarterback every game for the first time in
Which
forever.
and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why you have a chance to win 9 games this year. You had consistency at that
Sure.
position. You had
Sure.
good play at that position. All those things. I think there's
Yep.
just something to be said about that.
No doubt. No doubt. So, um, one more kind of along the lines of what you talked about. You mentioned a different play caller. This one comes from Carl. It says, can you give us some insight on why Coach McGuire chose the two play callers he did for the bowl game?
Well, I know that he trusts CJ IU on the defensive side, a lot, and I think he's got some age and experience to him. I can't, I don't know if that's knowledge of the defense, if that's chemistry, if that's just the leadership component
Yeah.
or whatever. But then with Juice, it's tricky for. Obviously, Kirk Bryant is going to coach quarterbacks in this game. You've got your offensive line coach, and then I mean, I guess I would have thought that Kenny Perry may have had an opportunity to do that, but I
Mhm.
think it's also you're kind of trying to help Juice out by give him some experience too, and I think he obviously knows that he's the one that's down on the field, and he's familiar with the personnel groups and
Yeah,
all those things. So I will we will find out more, I guess, as it gets closer, but I think that that's going to be an interesting component in this bowl game.
sure it will.
How Coach Johnson, how Coach IU kind of call it, or what they maybe have. I doubt much is tweaked, but you're having to tweak some stuff just because of your personnel and
Yeah,
being some people being injured or out or in the portal or whatever it may be, and then it's based on the opponent. But we'll get into that more. But I expect Arkansas to be very run heavy, and then I expect you to kind of be more pass heavy
okay.
on offense.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, you did take the receivers coach to go call the plays, so is he going to let his guys eat? Yeah. No,
yeah.
I think it'll be kind of fun. One question that's been there quite a bit the last few weeks. This one's from Kelly. Does Tahj play in the bowl game?
I doubt it.
Doubt it.
If I was Taj Brooks, I would love for him to play. It would be an unbelievable Christmas present that I would love to unwrap 2 days later and be like, "Wow, Santa, thank you so much." This is I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
Getting to watch this kid tote the rock one more time. And I think it would go a long way in being able to help you win the game. For him personally, this is a game that everybody's going to remember who wins or loses years from now. But
Hmm.
he's done a lot for this program, and if I'm him, I would. I would sit down with Coach McGuire and I would say, Coach, I hate doing this, but I need to get ready for the combine. I need to do a lot of the speed training.
Hmm.
to prepare for the next phase. I love to be there to support. I'll be here for anything that you may need, but I just don't want a chance, and I can't fault him for that. He's squeezed about everything he could out of a Red Raider uniform, and it's time for him to go, t- turn the page, if you will. If this was a conference championship game, if you were in the playoff, I think if you were playing, like an A&M or an Oklahoma, like in Houston, and maybe a higher profile bowl game, I think there would have been a really good chance he would have played. But I think this is, going against an Arkansas team that was 6-6, and you're going to do it in a renovated stadium. I'm not trying to diminish the bowl game because I'm thrilled to get to go. I'm thrilled for a lot of these kids, but this is just this is a different situation. I think Josh Kelly may have a similar decision to make as well.
So my question level, why have we not seen an announcement either direction on that so far? What's because we've seen a lot from elsewhere across the country, so I'm just curious why you think those guys haven't.
Well, Arkansas hadn't exactly like told you everybody that's in and out of the bowl game that there's been
Hmm.
some guys opt out on their own and all that.
Right. Right.
I don't know if this is gamesmanship or if this is just like we're going to let Tahj do it on his own terms,
Okay.
and maybe he's still playing. Okay, I don't want to like totally rule that out either.
Sure.
I think, but yeah, and there hadn't been a lot of media availabilities either because I mean at some point Coach McGuire and everybody is going to get in front of folks and guess, hey, who's not playing in this game?
Yeah.
But I don't think many of your portal entries will play. However, the guys that I wouldn't be surprised if they do play is a Jake Strong. And then I think there's two receivers that I won't even be surprised if like Brady Boyd and Cameron, excuse me, Jordan Brown had the wrong Brown on the mind. Cameron Brown, he's long gone. I think Jordan Brown, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they reconsidered staying here,
Okay.
like long term, like for next year. I can't say that for sure, but we'll just kind of see how that plays out. But it's not going to surprise me if they play in this bowl game too, even though those three guys are in the portal. And I guess I wouldn't rule out Jake Strong staying here too. I know that they all want to play more.
Right.
It's just different right now than it was, and so anyway, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay. Makes sense. So the other big story, obviously, we mentioned up front was the portal and Texas Tech's success in the portal. Um, you're from various publications ranked as the number one portal class at some point this week. Where do you attribute the reason for the success there? Is it purely monetarily based? Is it what you're just swinging for the fences and connecting? Why has Tech been so successful, at least in the early stages of this?
Well, and keep in mind, there's going to be a lot of this portal ranking fluctuation.
Sure,
There's
sure.
people just getting into the portal.
Right.
This is going to take a while for it to play out. And the weird thing is that there's not necessarily a quote unquote signing date. There's no like drop dead deadline on, okay, it'll all be wrapped up by then. This is going to bleed into January for everybody, not just Texas Tech and everybody's first day of class and all those kinds of things when you could kind of pin it down.
Hmm.
That's different for a lot of schools.
Yep.
Hey, well, our semester starts here. Well, we're on quarters out there with a different structure, and so so there's all that. So I just want to. You got a long way to go, I guess is my point. That's what I would offer up. But most kids are going to cast their lot and try to get their visits done in the time frame that we're looking at right now before the holidays start, and they've got to be in the portal by the 28th.
Right.
And then with classes starting places in mid-January, there'll be visits in early January and all those things. But then you also have all these playoff teams that have the rule built in to where after they lose the game, they've got 5 days where they can get into the portal. Like it doesn't really apply to them.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that. I think your success, and again, you've just started to scratch the surface here. You've got You're maybe halfway done. I mean, maybe a little less than halfway done with what you need to do.
Hmm.
And you're going to lose more guys off of your team. I think there'll be a next wave of portal entries.
Well, I think the number, someone else figured this out. I think your number needs to be around a minus 18, like in net, because of the 105 by the end of the spring, where you exit 18 more kids than you're bringing in with your high school and your portal class. So we're going to see a lot of exits, but it's going to be that way across the country.
Yeah, well, it's yeah, you're going to cut kids,
Yeah,
or you're just going to simply. I mean, that's the
ask
way
them to
that
go in the
this is going to
portal. Yeah.
go. Yeah, like but you can keep in mind you can have as many people as you want on your roster in the spring. Okay,
Yes.
within the I don't know 125 or I don't know whatever. I mean, you can have a bloated situation there in the spring, but like
Right.
come July 1st or whatever it is, so there will be some kids that I think will go through bowl prep and then play the bowl game and then go, hey man, and it may behoove them to do that because you're going to get more activity at this time frame, and it gives you a better chance to at more NIL money or more playing time or more availability as opposed to the springtime and all that. So you could lose more guys off of your own roster, is what I'm saying. And then guys will be brought in, and there'll be some younger players. If they don't step it up in the spring, you're going to
Hmm.
have to go, hey man,
Yep.
it's just not going to happen for you here, or there's just we're gonna bring your playbook. That this is the hard part about it, but that's the reality.
Sure.
As far as your early success, yeah, I just think you're aligned, Woodman. I think that you are very well funded right now. I think you have a war chest and you're using it.
Hmm.
It's not just that, but I think that there's not anybody that's like in the picture here from your administration, from your donors to your coaching staff that wants all the credit. Everybody agrees with the process. I think there's many people involved in said process. The process needs to be streamlined a bit, and there's some trust.
Yeah.
Now, if you go through a year or two and you go, man, we picked wrong out here and we spent a lot of money, then I mean, maybe people have to answer for that. But
Sure.
um, I think right now, though, you're getting folks that a lot of Power Four schools, wanted and are offering money to.
Yep.
You've and what's ultimately going to decide if you win the portal class rankings and all those things, or did you do well, is what you do up front on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
They have added one offensive lineman. They have added one defensive tackle. I expect so there's two, you know, trench guys. I expect that number to get to 3 to 4 to maybe 5 in total. Maybe 3 on each side of the ball, and probably 3 on each side of the ball. And that's ultimately what's going to decide if you did well here or not, and how those guys pan out.
Yeah.
That's what will decide it. But you've got a Hunter Zambrano, a really good, uh, versatile offensive lineman that I think may end up as a guard for you. He could play tackle, but he's got some position flex that I think that he can do some things. Skylar Gill Howard from Northern Illinois is slightly undersized on the defensive tackle, but he's very active.
Yeah.
He's 6'1", about 285. A lot of plays that he makes, and these guys are hard to get now.
Right.
These because there's a lot of interest in these two guys, but you've obviously addressed your secondary needs, and your team is going to look different. That's what kind of fires me up. Is there's many times when I sit down there on the field over the years, and I look at OU or Texas or LSU in a bowl game or Ole Miss several years ago, and you just look different than they do.
Yeah.
2 years ago, you looked like you were supposed to look, or you looked the part. When you had Tyree Wilson and Miles
Sure.
Cole
Sure.
and these 6'2" corners and all that. Well, you're getting back to that. So that's what's kind of fun for me is you're going to try to bring in a 6'5" defensive end. You're going to bring in a left tackle that is going to be 6'7", 6'8" with some experience. You're going to bring, just on and on it goes. So
Yep. So, one more question on the portal. This one's from Matthew. It says, with the portal announcements so far, what position group or groups is the staff focusing on? You've already mentioned the trenches. Is there anything outside of that that they're honing
Well,
in on?
that's first and foremost. That
Yeah,
that's just going to decide this thing. It just is. I mean, you're going to sprinkle in, but then there's some one-offs. You need you added a receiver. You potentially could look at another, and the receiver was not easy to get either.
sure he would. Yeah,
Trust me when I tell you that Reggie Virgil. There are some people that are quite frustrated out there in the college space about not being able to get Reggie Virgil, and some even folks nearby that desperately wanted him or thought they had him, and anyway, it just kind of cracks me up on all this stuff.
oh yeah.
But you're going to take a quarterback, you're going to take a running back, you're going to take a tight end. But as far and you've addressed your secondary
Hmm.
now. I think you've added two corners. You've added a safety. One of these corners has multiple years to play. Bryce Pollock from Mississippi State. I think you may add another DB. Okay. I'm not going to rule out one of your younger players going, man, I just don't see my path to playing time, or, I don't know. So just, pay attention there because this kind of stuff. You
Yep.
love for everybody to be totally okay with, sure, bring everybody in here. Yeah.
Sure.
And
Sure.
theoretically, you probably are going to need so many people, but some guys don't want to wait their turn if they've got opportunities elsewhere. That's just how this is going. So, but offensive and defensive line, that's the focus.
Yeah.
It's been the focus. That's where the most money will be spent, not just for you, but across the country. And those guys are hardest to find.
And of course, we have our weekly Micah Hudson question. This one comes from Michael saying, is there still any chance we get Hudson
No.
or is he going to A&M?
I don't know where I mean, I think that's what a lot of the talk is about. I think that ship has sailed. I think everybody here has moved on.
Okay.
You wish him well, and I think everybody has moved on. And I would say this: it's a fair question to ask aloud about. And Woodman, you tell me the answer. When I've seen some of these guys get into the portal, there's a lot of well wishes and a lot of teammates saying, "Hey, man, go do your thing. Good luck." How much did you see that with Micah Hudson?
I don't think I saw a single tweet or anything,
Okay. All right.
honestly.
So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yep. Um, okay, so now shifting towards actual games, product on the field. Uh, Texas Tech plays against Arkansas. The first question, this one comes from Kelly. What young players do you expect to make an impact in the bowl game for Tech? Obviously, besides Will Hammond now.
Well, your entire backfield.
Yeah,
Yeah, Will Hammond, Jacoby Williams, and Cameron Dickey. Yeah, I think
very
Kelby
young.
Valson, Kelby Valson is going to get quite a look. I wouldn't rule out your TJ West, your Tyson Turners, some of these younger receivers. TJ West is even talking about the portal and everything. He tweeted out, over the weekend, I'm getting in the portal. I got 3 years left. And then like 30 minutes later, he deleted it and was telling people, I was being emotional. I don't, I'm sorry. I
Hmm.
didn't mean that.
Yeah.
Or, so that's just, there's a lot going on with this deal. But those are some of the young guys that I would expect. Jacob Ponton, I think, if he's not starting, I bet he has a primary role. I wouldn't rule out Holton Hendricks on the offensive line in some capacity because, I don't think Dalton Merriman and Ty Buchanan are going to play for you in this bowl game. I just
Hmm.
don't. And, um, some of your seniors. I mean, I would like to think that Sterling Porche and Davion Carter and Caleb Rogers are going to play. So we'll see there. Defensively, heck, there's no new young people that I think would necessarily factor in that haven't already played because you've played all the young ones all year. Maybe some of those edge guys like an Eddie Smith or Charles Anderson.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like your Oliver Miles, maybe at corner.
Or Peyton
Um,
Morgan in the secondary.
it's safety, yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean, it just depends on who's available and all those things. Some of these guys could spill into special teams a little bit too.
sure.
So, but as far as impact, it's all on offense. It would be Ponton potentially at left tackle, your entire backfield, and maybe at wideout.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Big 12, we got bowl games actually starting this week, depending on when you listen to this. West Virginia might have already played in their bowl game. I believe as it sits right now, level one Big 12 or one bowl game, you play obviously against each other. BYU, Colorado meeting up in the Alamo Bowl in a weird situation there. But 9 teams playing in 8 games. A Big 12 team is only favored in 3 of those games, I believe. And Texas Tech is one of them now. They didn't start as a favorite, but it shifted
Yeah, so
towards.
that spread started out at what, Arkansas minus three, 3.5. Is
Uh-huh.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're telling me what is it now?
Tech minus 2.5 or 3, depending when you're looking at this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is interesting because you just announced your starting quarterback is not playing, and you mentioned the lack of announcements on some players, including the ones for Texas Tech. If that ever comes out on either
Sure.
side of the
Sure.
equation for either team, makes you wonder if that even gets adjusted even more.
Might
So.
might be. But so what do you expect out of Big 12 teams? Is it important for this league level to have a good showing in bowl games, or is it only we're looking at Arizona State and seeing what they do to judge the entire league off of that?
I don't think there's anything that could happen in bowl time that would make me change my mind on the Big 12 being deep, competitive, and all those things. I think everybody's got a different scenario. Everybody's going to take a different version of their team into these bowl games compared to what we saw all regular season. If you go 6-2 in said bowl games, we're all going to talk about, hey man, right there, buddy. Yeah, we play in it. And if you go 2-6, guess what we're all going to say? I
It's
mean,
bowl season.
Texas Tech didn't even have their starter. West Virginia didn't have their head coach, and all and on and on and on and
Yeah.
on it goes. That's just kind of how this stuff goes. I don't. I mean, would it help a little bit for Arizona State to make a little noise in the Big 12? Yeah, but that's more about Arizona State than the Big 12. I don't really think you're going to get some major bump, or it's not like Greg Sankey and the folks at the Big Ten are going to go, huh, man, that's pretty impressive what's going on in there and what they're doing right now. So yeah, in fact, let's give them more access. Let's talk about them more favorably. In fact, let's give them some of our money. I mean, or I don't know, whatever. It's just yeah, I don't buy that for a second. So that's stuff for you and I to talk about.
Sure.
Is it really meaningful? I don't know. I think in some ways it does play into college basketball slightly more with so many teams that play actual meaningful games. Because some of these bowl games, let's just call it what it is. It's going to be meaningful to you and I
Right.
and to Joey and his team, but they're glorified exhibitions. It's not like you can still go win a championship like it is in the NCAA tournament. I think if you basketball wise, if you start making a lot of heyday and you got this many teams in the Sweet 16, but again, and that's more money for your league in those cases. Like every time that you advance an NCAA tournament, like with your league gets paid off of that. Like years from now, they're still getting paid off of that. I don't know what a bowl game record and all that. I'll be rooting for some of the Big 12 teams, but I'll be rooting against some of them too.
Yeah. Same here. Same here.
I
Yeah. I don't
mean,
think the bowl.
go Louisiana. Um, go. I don't know who I'll be rooting for in the Alamo Bowl. I'd kind of like them both to play a terrible
Mm,
football game and suffer greatly. It's kind of like in a way, that's kind of a little A&M Texas vibe to me.
okay. Okay.
If the ball could go flat and everybody go home with a tie. And again, I don't know who's playing in that one. I mean, I'm not rooting for Baylor over LSU. Sorry. I mean, I'm
Nope.
just not. So, I mean, Kansas State and Rutgers. Yeah, I
Who's
don't know.
watching?
Yeah, that's right. And I
Yeah.
do like Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State. I might pull for them a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got a perception problem for the Big 12, and part of it is fighting against the propaganda machines of ESPN and Fox are in bed with the SEC and the Big Ten. So I think if Arizona State wins, whoever they beat, if it was Clemson or Texas, it would help the overall perception of your league. But I think it's kind of a long shot for them to win against either of those teams, especially Texas. But that would be a kind of a tasty thing for the Big 12. If Arizona State were to beat Texas, one of your new teams beats the team that they replaced, or one of the teams they replaced, that'd be a pretty good look for the Big 12. Level, one more question. This one regarding the Liberty Bowl and the construction. It says, level, are the optics as bad as it looks for the Liberty Bowl and putting Texas Tech on the construction side, or is that just kind of internet fodder?
I'm curious myself. I really don't know what this is going to look like. I don't even know I don't know where you'll be sitting, Woodman, press box wise. I don't know really the general setup. I know I saw some pictures this past week. There's already been a site visit by Texas Tech officials, just kind of figuring out, locker room and just the lay of the land. And I'm sure the way the construction stuff is looking, but there's not a lot of available pictures out there to kind of see what it looks like right now.
Yeah.
But I understand the frustration on it, but this is more. I mean, I think this was already built in
Yeah.
on the SEC side. This is just what they chose. I think you were thankful. I'm thankful that you got this bowl game as opposed to getting sent to Phoenix or the Metroplex or something. I get it, and it may cause some Tech fans to stay away, or you could end up sitting really close on the. So I just again I don't know. I should just stop talking. I don't know.
It just seems weird, the whole
Yeah,
setup, and but
somebody had to get it, and Arkansas is just right up the road. That these bowls are in business. Um,
I guess my only
that's
question is why they didn't play it in another stadium for a season. Like, why don't you put that in a different location, move it over to Nashville or something like that?
well, and that may be just because it's directly tied to Memphis, and maybe
Yeah.
there's not another stadium. I
Middle.
don't know.
Yeah.
I think everything yeah, they may have been like, we're not like this is Memphis, man. We're not
It's
like
our thing.
that's our rival
And
there in Nashville.
maybe the fear of losing the bowl game forever is why you don't
Yep.
move it too. So yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I guess I get it,
Yeah.
but it's still
But I was there, I was there 3, 4 years ago,
right.
whatever, and
Right.
it needed renovation.
Sure.
And I think they're spending quite a bit of money, and it's the University of Memphis. Obviously, that's their home stadium. But the Liberty Bowl is I was fortunate enough to be in at the Birmingham Bowl with Legion Field and all that many years ago, and um, I think that's the name of the stadium that's there. I think that's right.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it had been, yeah, I was going to say, it'd been there for a long time. That's where they used to play Auburn, Alabama, and the Iron Bowl and all those things way back when. But Liberty Bowl's got a lot of history. I'm glad they're fixing it up.
Sure.
I grew up going to, there's just so many of the stadiums that I grew up going to that no longer exist. And I'm not, you can't always retrofit everything or you can't
Sure.
always like
Sure.
fix everything up. Sometimes it's just better to just wipe it clean. But I guess in some weird way, you're getting the short end of the stick, and you may not end up going there anytime soon. We may not even see the finished product, but I'm just glad for college football in a way that I'm glad that they're renovating that and putting money back into a facility to kind of update it and keep it there and all that. And the this is way before your time, but right there in the parking lot is the Mid-South Coliseum, which also probably could use a renovation. The Mid-South Coliseum used to host wrestling in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. This was where Jerry the King Lawler was made famous, and like Andy Kaufman, the actor off of Taxi. There's been
Mhm.
movies made about this little
Yeah.
feud and all that stuff, and all that was taking place like right there in the parking lot. So I got a kick out of that, like where that, I mean, because you just see it seems so far off, and you're watching this stuff as a kid, or you're aware of it as a kid, and all that stuff. So, anyways, but yeah, there's a lot of history right there in Memphis. So,
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, you kind of got hosed a little bit, but somebody was going to.
Yeah. Very few bowl games are still the original bowl games that they were
Oh
50,
yeah.
60 years ago, and this is one of them that still holds the
Hmm.
same name. It's not some corporate
Well,
sponsor name. Yeah.
you were just at one last year that
Yeah.
I think kept the same name and also had some stadium renovations.
Yep.
They're in
Yep.
Shreveport, the Independence Bowl. I went to that game in the '90s a bunch. I watched Oregon play Wake Forest one year when I was
Wow.
going to. Yeah, when I was bored in the holidays, me and my buddies were like, let's just go up to Shreveport and watch the bowl game.
Yeah.
I've seen TCU play Virginia there,
Sure.
but that stadium needed a lot of help too, and then they got it. So yeah, good I guess good for some of these stadiums. Maybe it's bad for taxpayers in the in some
Maybe.
of these cities, but yeah,
But I think, like you mentioned, overall good for college football when you
sure.
keep some of these traditions and bowls around. But all right, Level. Next time we do this, it'll be the bowl preview right up against it. We'll be looking ahead to the Liberty Bowl and Texas Tech, so we'll probably have some more knowledge on maybe who will play and those sorts of things. But appreciate the time as usual, and we'll do it again soon.
And I'll leave you with this now that we've talked about all these renovated or under construction stadiums,
Okay.
and college football and all those things. If you continue to do what you're doing in the portal, and I expect you to, you won't be playing in places like Memphis or Shreveport next year.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. But you're obviously you're kind of you're going for it a little bit. So you need a
Yep.
little luck, and you're still not at the end of the portal race here. But yeah, it's fun because you're adding some grown men
No doubt.
and experienced grown men into your football program, and so we'll see. But yeah, it's kind of exciting. But anyway, man, I appreciate it, Woodman. Thank you to Cantex Roofing for being a part of what we do here on a weekly basis. Thank you to my man Woodman for tossing them up and me dribbling them to second base and then trying to run out a ground ball and getting thrown out. So there you go.
It was at least a double to the gap today. At least a double. All right,
Okay.
Level. That's Chris Level. I'm Choice Woodman. It's been the Ask Level podcast brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.